Read these if you want more information about it and about us. I won't take up any more of your time." She slipped out of the seat. Scully glanced down and saw that she had finished only half of her own lunch. Muriel Bremen had already ducked out the door, leaving Scully alone in the restaurant before she could think of an intelligent question. Coronado Naval Base, San Diego, California, Thursday, 10:34 a.m. From the Coronado shipyards, the ocean sprawled westward beyond the curve of the earth, deep blue and dazzling with reflected morning sunlight. The weather struck Bear Dooley as incredibly mild, sunny but cooled by fresh breezes, so that even his flannel shirt and denim jacket were tolerable. A young officer in white dress uniform met Bear Dooley at the docks. Dooley didn't know Navy rank or the regulations of when sailors were supposed to wear certain uniforms, but he got the impression that this blonde-haired, clean-cut man might be someone of more than average importance. The sailor gave him a smart salute. "Mr. Dooley, sir," the man said. "I'm Lee Clancy, first officer of the USS Dallas, here to escort you on board our ship. If you follow me, sir, Captain Ives is ready to see you. We've recalled the entire crew and kept them busy provisioning the ship and preparing to shove off. We'll be ready to get underway as soon as you're prepared." "How was your trip?" Clancy asked. "Yeah, the flight was fine," Dooley said. "Did all the equipment arrive safe on board?" "I believe so, sir," Clancy answered, "sometime late last night." The disguised and armored semi-truck, the safe, secure transport, had left at sunset the previous day and had driven through the night on the California freeways to reach San Diego at the bottom of the state. The drivers were escorted front and back by armored nondescript vans whose drivers and passengers had orders to shoot to kill, no questions asked, should problems arise to threaten the Bright Anvil nuclear device. The two of them strode along the dock, past several other chain-link fences and gates guarded by armed military police. Finally, Dooley saw the large Navy destroyer that had been assigned to his project. The enormous, sleek ship looked like a skyscraper in the water, with weapons mounts and control towers, radar antennas, satellite uplink dishes, meteorological instruments, and various other superstructures Dooley could not identify. Navy stuff, he figured. Dooley stopped and looked along the length of the gigantic cruiser. Despite his usual gruff demeanor, he had to admit he was impressed with the vessel. "There she is, Mr. Dooley," Clancy said. He snapped to attention and began to rattle off the ship's statistics. They seemed to be a matter of pride with him rather than a memorized speech. The Dallas, Spruance class, built in 1971, 563 feet overall length, powered by 4 sets of GE gas turbines. She's got a small captain's gig for quick trips ashore, plus an entire surface-to-air missile battery, anti-submarine weapons, and torpedo tubes. This class of battleship was designed primarily for anti-submarine warfare, but she's lightly armed and carries a minimal crew. The Dallas is the finest vessel in her class, if you ask me, sir. She'll get us out to the islands no matter what the weather. The first officer led him up a wide gangplank the size of a freeway entrance ramp and marched him across the deck up several flights of hard metal steps to the bridge tower, where he introduced Dooley to the captain of the Dallas. "Captain Ives, sir, this is Mr. Dooley," Clancy said after he had exchanged salutes with the captain. The first officer nodded to Dooley. "I'll take your duffel to your stateroom, sir. I'm sure Captain Ives wishes to speak with you in detail." "Yes, I do," the captain answered. "Pleased to meet you, Captain Ives. Thanks for your help." Dooley extended his hand and the captain took his grip with a firm shake. Ives was a lean man in his early 60s, as tall as Dooley but less burly. His chin was narrow, his eyes slate gray under heavy salt-and-pepper eyebrows. A bristling mustache rode his upper lip, and steel-gray hair lay neatly beneath his white captain's cap. He showed no sign of sweating in the heat. Perhaps he didn't allow it. "Mr. Dooley, I'm sure your first concern is about your delicate equipment. Let me reassure you that everything has arrived safely and intact, as far as we can tell." "Good," Dooley said, his voice curt. He wanted to make certain at the outset that the captain understood that Dooley was in charge and that his instructions were not to be questioned. "If that equipment is damaged, we might as well not even bother to go. When do we set sail?" "The Dallas can leave port at about 4 o'clock this afternoon," Captain Ives said, "but you may have noticed that this Navy destroyer has no sails." Dooley blinked at him. then understood. "Oh, just a turn of phrase," he said, annoyed. "Do you have any weather charts or updates for me?" "We received an encrypted signal," the captain said. "A report from a fast flyby of an aircraft out of our Kwajalein tracking station. Anika Atoll checks out. We'll be heading out for the Marshall Islands at full engine power, but it'll still take us 5 days." "5 days?" Dooley said. "I was afraid of that." Ives met him with a steely gaze. "This isn't an aircraft, Mr. Dooley. It takes a long time to get a ship this size across that much water." All right, Dooley said. "I suppose I knew that. Do we have weather satellites? Is the storm system still doing what we expected?" Ives led him over to a chart table where weather maps and satellite photos lay spread out. With one long finger, the captain indicated the swirl of clouds out over the deep, featureless water. "The tropical depression is worsening as expected. Within a few days it should be at full hurricane strength. According to our projections, it is heading straight towards the atoll." Good, Dooley leaned over, rubbing his hands together. Though he was a physicist and an engineer, he had learned a great deal about meteorology during the preparations for this test. Captain Ives leaned closer and lowered his voice so that the other seamen on the bridge deck would not hear him from their communications or navigation stations. "Let me be blunt, Mr. Dooley. I have already expressed to my superiors my extreme objections to the entire purpose of this mission. I have grave doubts about the wisdom of resuming above-ground nuclear tests no matter where they occur." Dooley stiffened and turned toward the captain, pausing just a moment to scratch his beard and allow his blood pressure to drop slightly. "Then maybe you just don't understand the necessity, Captain." "I understand all right, more than you know," Ives replied. "You see, I've been present at several hydrogen bomb tests already, one of which I doubt even you know about, since all the results were highly classified." Dooley raised his eyebrows. "When?" "Back in the 50s, Ives said. I was just a junior officer then, but I was there, out in the islands, Eniwetok, Bikini, even Johnston Atoll near Hawaii. I worked with plenty of eggheads who were so amazed by their own calculations, so confident in what they had invented. But I can tell you this, Mr. Dooley. Every single time those weapons developers like yourself, people who were so smug about their own abilities, were literally turned to jelly with awe when they watched their device go off." "I look forward to it then," Dooley said crisply. "Let me do my work, Captain Ives. You just keep the ship from sinking." Kamita Imports, Honolulu, Hawaii. Friday, 2:20 p.m. Sitting at his impeccably neat and carefully arranged desk in the high-rise office building, Ryan Kamita carefully addressed a padded envelope. His pen moved in precise strokes, and the letters came out perfect. Expansive windows covered 2 walls of his corner office, offering a panoramic view of Oahu. But Kamita kept the mini-blinds half closed most of the time. He dearly loved the gentle warmth of the sun, feeling its heat bathe his scarred skin, soothing, caressing his body, like barely remembered idyllic days on an isolated Pacific island. But too much bright sunshine felt like fire to him. It reminded him of that other blaze from the sky, the searing flash so intense that it had set the air molecules themselves on fire. Kamita's snow-white hair lay neatly on his head, perfectly maintained, thick and nicely cut. Because of the almost supernatural good fortune he had experienced during his adult life, Kamita had plenty of money for things like that: clothes, grooming, possessions. But his money couldn't buy everything. He didn't want everything. His burned hands gripped the felt-tip pen as if it were a weapon, and in a sense that's exactly what it was. The words resounded in his head. He filled out the address in a careful, perfect script, feeling for the right spot on the padded envelope. He could sense the accuracy of his letters. Satisfied, Kamita clicked the cap back on the pen. Then he reached out to hold the special envelope, feeling its edges, the sharp corners. He took it on faith that he had filled out the address correctly. He would never ask anyone else to double-check it.